Now, the table is always hot with current events and social issues, but sometimes the heat can get a little intense. Let's turn the temp down, take a breather, and get into this week's topic cool down. So, Quaviondre, what question do you have for us?
Well, I wanted to ask you, Daquon, do you ever want to meet your heroes or celebrities that you look up to?
Yes and no. I, there is a part of me that wants to, because there's a lot of people that I look up to that if I get to that point to where they can recognize me, I would feel like, oh, I am doing something with my work, because I see their work ethic. I see the influences that they have in like the industries that I'm most interested in being at, in their creativity and their art, that I want them to see me in that same level, or at any capacity at all. But also, I don't want to get too close. I don't want to get too close to my heroes, because when you're that close, you can see the closet, you can see things come out of the
Hmm.
closet. And I think that once that level of, celebrity or heroism, starts to unravel, then you have honestly a breakdown of like, I've been looking up to this person my entire life and now they're just a shitty person. Like, how can I deal with that?
Yeah, for me, absolutely not. Under the only if I worked with some, because I'm an actor, I'm a writer, stuff like that, or whatever case may be, and if I had to, if I was ever in that position, which hopefully I will be one day, period, speaking that to existence,
You
but
will
if I
be.
period, but when I'm in that space, or whenever I get in that space to where I'm in around people that I have looked up to, I think that there is something to be said about making sure that you keep that boundary in place about because I think that what we're missing sometimes is that when you talk to people like heroes and celebrities that you look up to, and you think about the nuance of the fact that they don't owe you a good experience.
Not at all.
They don't owe you a hug or a, high five, or even they don't even owe you an acknowledgement. You know what I'm saying? And I think people really mess that up a lot. I remember looking at other celebrities. I think we talked about this a little bit before, but like, just seeing celebrities and seeing how people are like hugging them, and I'm kind of like, I had to kind of, at first, growing up, I was like, why the fuck are these celebrities so mean to their fans? Like, what's wrong? Like, why are they like this? And then I thought to myself and put myself in that position. I was like, let's say I was working at my regular job, like I am, and I'm doing my job, and I'm doing a really good. I do really good, work at my job because it's my job. I'm trying to make these money and make my bill and pay my bills. Um, but imagine if somebody like a customer or a patron comes into your establishment and is like, "Oh my God, it's Daquon. Oh my God, it's Andre. You're the best cashier I've ever seen. I can't. You just do this, and it's so amazing. I've watched your work for so long. I just love how you count the money. I love how you just press the buttons." And you're like, "Thanks, I guess." And then
All
like, "Oh,
right.
can I get a hug, please?" It's kind of like, "No, stranger, I don't want you to touch me." And like, I didn't realize, like I said, growing up, I thought about it, and I was like, growing up, I thought like, that's such bullshit. Why won't you hug somebody? And I'm kind of like, now that I think about it as an adult, even though it's their career and they love to do what they do, it's still their job.
Right.
It's fully still their job. So people don't really get that, like, they don't owe you a good time. They don't owe you a hug or a, "Oh my goodness, I thank you so much. I really appreciate your work taking in my work." It's kind of like, no, once you bought their music, the transaction is complete.
Right. When
End
it
of
comes
end
to
of
celebrities, let's bring it back. Appreciate
He ain't
from
from
a
a distance.
distance. Like, because Andre and I went to a Beyonce concert, and I
Yes.
will say that is the closest I ever need to be to Beyonce. That is the closest I ever need to be, to Beyonce. Like, I was,
Yeah.
we were up there, but that's all I need. I don't need to be any closer, because once that like thing starts
Yeah.
unraveling and I see different sides, it won't be the same.
Exactly. I think there's even that kind of nuance there when it's talking about people who like you look up to and you realize that like they come off of a pedestal that you put in your mind. You know what I mean? Because in
Mhm.
your mind they are these amazing things supernatural entities. But then you realize, like, for me, that concert, again, Beyonce is that bitch. She is that one. She is the moment. I mean, come on now. But
Right.
I will say that going to that concert and seeing her in person, it was like, oh, she's just a regular person. Like, she's just a really talented person, but she's just a human being like anybody else. And it was the first time I realized, I was like, oh no, like, it takes away from the magic a little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean? And for me, it's like, I always say that when it comes to meeting people that I look up to, it's like, you know, I'm never going to seek that person out. Like, people, like, I'm a big fan of Charmed or whatever the case may be, but like, you know, a lot of these other shows, but it's kind of like, I will never be able to meet the characters. I'm only going to meet the actors. They're not the same people. You know what I mean? I think that's what people get messed up on, is like, you want to meet Beyonce the entertainer. You don't want to meet Beyonce the person. There's a difference. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't understand that. It's kind of like they expect Beyonce to be like, you know, and that's Sasha Fierce. It's a whole nother, that's not how she is all the time. That's an aspect of her personality. And I think many people forget that, is that, like, what you're watching of a person usually is an aspect of who they are. It is not the essence of who they are. And so while it's more of like you pouring a glass of a gallon of milk of that person, and you like, this milk is delicious. But then you realize there's a whole ass other thing full of other stuff, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to drink all of this. I just want to drink this part. And it's like, no, when you meet a celebrity, you meet the whole glass. The glass is overflowing. So I think that while meeting a celebrity is a wonderful thing, and it can be like, and meeting your heroes can be a great experience. I would say it's not something that I particularly want to seek out. You know what I mean? Like, if I happen to be in that space, that's different. But, you know, I think that meeting them, like trying to go out to like the fan conventions, like what Daquon said, if we're on the same level, that's fine. Like, if I'm your director, or we're like acting in the same scene, or whatever the case may be, that's different. But if I'm coming to like a con or some kind, and I'm like, hey, blah blah blah, I've watched you from the beginning, like, oh, okay, have a good day. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, so many children grow up never knowing the full scope of what their culture has contributed to society and history. So it's time for a change. Let's take a pause, rewind, and remind the world just how we did that. Now, in the article, 29 Facts About Black History That You Might Not Know, we learn that Dr. Mamie Clayton founded the Mamie A. Clayton Library and Museum in 1975. Home to Mamie Agnew collection of African American history and culture, the MCLM contains millions of books, films, documents, artifacts, and art pieces, which are products of Black contributions to the United States. The museum was first started as the Western States Black Research Center, and Dr. Clayton spent decades curating her historical collection on her own. Now, set up in a large garage within Clayton's Los Angeles home, the collection was a library open to all. Now, after some of the artifacts were damaged due to poor storage conditions, a campaign to rescue and relocate Dr. Clayton's work has finally paid off when the collection found its permanent home inside the former Los Angeles County Superior Courthouse in Culver City. It remains open for guided tours in this day. Today.
Gotta love that. Like, as a Black academic, I love museums and archives. I love being able to like go in there and like touch different materials and like see original documents. So gotta love an archivist, especially a Black archivist.
Period.
Now, Fannie Jackson Coppin was born into slavery, but at the age of 12, her aunt was able to buy Coppin's freedom. She attended Oberlin College, becoming the second Black woman ever to receive a bachelor's degree. Following graduation, she decided to go into teaching and became a teacher at the Institute for Colored Youth. She then became principal of the school, making her the first Black woman to be a school principal. Coppin was a staunch advocate for increasing the educational opportunities and achievements of Black people, stating in a letter to Frederick Douglass, I quote, I feel sometimes like a person to whom in childhood was entrusted some sacred flame. This is the desire to see my race lifted out of the mire of ignorance, weakness, and degradation. No longer sit in obscure corners and devour the scraps of knowledge which his superiors flung at him. I want to see him crowned with strength and dignity, adorned with the enduring grace of intellectual attainments. End quote. She later went on to become the first Black school superintendent, period.
Mm.
And Coppin State University, an HBCU in Baltimore, was named in her honor.
I mean, once again, Black women.
At this point,
Black
we
women
don't even have to say it. We just know.
constantly raising the bar. That's amazing. That really is. Now, as always, thank you all so much for watching, and keep the conversation going down in the comment box below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you're listening to us on our podcast. Now, please remember to rate and review on whatever podcast platforming that you're using. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, our handles are at Andre Talks a Lot and at Daquon 950. You can also follow our podcast on Instagram at the Melanin Margin for updates of new content. Now, we will see you all next week on the Melanin Margin, where conversations about race are never off the table.